Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, our production of AGORACOM, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives after they put out important news. Guess who's back? Peter Pascali, President and CEO, PyroGenesis Canada, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol PYR. Mind you, for probably not a lot longer, which is great news for our friends in the US, PYRNF. The company doesn't need much of introduction. You know them. They're the developer and commercializing their plasma torch technology across multiple applications, enough to say that their backlog is expected to be about $40 million. So they're doing great things. Here, what we're talking about today, I'm going to read it. PyroGenesis announces closing of $12 million bought deal prospectus offering, including full exercise of over allotment option. Hey, Peter, welcome back, buddy.
Thanks. Glad to be here, George. Really good to be here. Thanks a lot.
Hey, congratulations. It's no small feat. Nobody takes for granted when a company closes $12 million in a bought deal. That's pretty big because it means they took on all the risk because they knew they could sell it. How important is this to the company for you to be doing a $12 million deal? It's got to be your biggest financing yet.
Yeah, it's our biggest financing, George. It was done by prospectus. The last time we did a prospectus deal was over 10 years ago. And I can get into that later on, but it's important to us because it was one of the boxes we had to tick to uplist. And that's really the only reason why we were doing this particular financing, was to tick that box. We don't need the cash. We have enough cash on our to go forward over the next 18 months, 2 years, whatever we have to project out for the TSX. So this was done clearly just to tick that box, and we're very happy. Bought deal, oversubscribed significantly. Very, very happy.
Hey, by the way, really quick for people who are watching for the first time, the box you had to tick was you had to raise a certain amount of capital for your TSX uplist. What was that number?
Yeah, so I can talk about that if you want to a bit, George. What we're doing is actually two separate things. One is we made an application to the TSX to uplist as a technology company, and as a technology company, one of the requirements are that you have at least $10 million on your balance sheet, the majority of which is from a prospectus financing. And we haven't done a prospectus financing since, I think we did, when we did the RTO, it was prospectus, and I think the last one we did was in 2012. So we uplisted in 2011 on a prospectus. In 2012, we did another deal in prospectus, but we haven't done a prospectus since then. All our deals were non-brokered private placements. So the question becomes, what does the TSX use as a benchmark for how much you have on your balance sheet at the end of the second quarter, what we have now at closing? So you have to have the majority of 10 million on your balance sheet, which is basically 5 million in $1 if you have 10 million. So we went out to do it and decided to do an original raise of 5.7 to tick that box. And then
you went higher. But you went higher. Why?
Well, we went higher because we weren't sure whether the TSX would use our second quarter numbers, which I think showed we had 1 million on our balance sheet, or take the what's currently in our bank. And just so that wasn't left to question, and since we're going out funding, and since it was so significantly oversubscribed, it was oversubscribed more than 12.7 million or whatever it is, 12.1 that we got. We decided just to cut it off there. We made the 10 million. There's no question. We ticked that box, and we had some extra money on the balance sheet. So that's the story behind why we went and did the financing. With respect to the prospectus offering, that's very interesting as well, because I think we announced this whole thing around October 15th or so, and we wanted to close it out around October 30th, basically before quarter end. That's about 2 weeks. Most companies, well, I don't know about most, I haven't done it statistically, but most companies, it seems, do prospectus offerings, more frequently than once every 10 years. And so what you have to do when you do this prospectus offering, you have to go back over history and for instance, justify where every share was issued, that it was issued properly, all the way back, not 1 year or 2 years, all the way back to the last prospectus.
Man, that's a lot of due diligence.
Figure out all the supporting documentation for every share that's issued 10 years ago. Our files are pretty good, but it's complicated. So we did that in roughly 2 weeks and a couple of days, which is remarkable. We went back with the AMF. The AMF had questions back and forth, and we got that signed off. So where we are right now is we've ticked the finance box, and we have a conditional approval from the TSX for uplisting. Now we're going to them with the final, the fact that we've finished this off, and it looks like the uplisting will be. I don't want to put any time frame on it, but it's the heavy lifting's done. The heavy lifting is done, and
yeah, I was going to ask you that. Ballpark, do you have an ETA? Naturally, it's out of your hands, so you can't pinpoint anything. But is it ballpark ETA? Is it any day now? Is it next month? Is it next quarter? Can you?
Well, I think it's going to be in the next
an
few weeks.
idea?
The next few weeks. Let's just put it that way.
All right.
We'd like to be uplisted before the end of the reporting period for the third quarter numbers.
You have some questions out there about you had to do this financing because potential customers were asking you to have a stronger balance sheet. I don't know if you want to address that, but it's been a question that's been out there enough. I should ask you.
Absolutely not. We never had a question about our balance sheet from any customer, any time in our history, except many years ago when we were looking at doing something in Japan. The question came up many years ago, but it's never been a question that's been posed to us. There's been no. I don't even think our potential clients or clients really know what exchange we're on or what our financials look like. It's never become a question. Look, if it's not a question for the U.S. Navy, it's like, and I guess that goes a long way to building credibility with clients. They're dealing with U.S. Navy over many years. They have done their own due diligence and found us to not to be lacking. So, I think that goes. I'm just speculating now, obviously, but it can't hurt.
One of the biggest advantages of being on the Toronto Stock Exchange, I'm presuming, is that it now opens up more potential buyers, and I'm talking on the institutional side. Can you speak to that? Because I'm presuming there are, and I'm not going to speak about Pyro. I'm presuming that there are a lot of funds and institutions and brokerages, whatever the case may be, that would want to buy ABC widgets on TSX Venture Exchange. Ticks all the boxes for them. They like it, but they just can't because it's under junior exchange. Does getting to the TSX big board for PyroGenesis open the company up to a bigger pool of big money buyers?
You'd think so, wouldn't you, George? I mean, that's the idea behind uplisting and going through the costs and the aggravation is essentially increasing the eyeballs on the stock. And one of the groups of eyeballs are funds. Obviously, there are funds that can buy on the TSXV, but there's legitimately a lot more. I don't know about a lot more, but there's funds that just cannot invest on the venture exchange. So they're limited to the TSX, the big board. So yeah, that's the basic idea. The basic idea of this whole exercise, unless it was missed by anybody, was it doesn't help my business in any way, other than through getting more eyeballs on the stock and maybe increasing market cap. But the idea is to get more eyeballs on the stock, more interest in the stock, more trading of the stock, more investment in the stock. And that's basically the idea for why we uplist.
Is it fair to say you're ending off? I mean, here we are, almost mid-November now. Is it fair to say, Peter, that you're ending off the year, PyroGenesis is ending off the year stronger than it's ever been? First, from a business side. Second of all, from a balance sheet side.
Yeah.
I mean, how happy are you guys at the current state of affairs at Pyro?
We're over the moon now, George. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, there's no debt on our balance sheet other than trade payables. Our backlog is going from 7 million last year to 40 million this year. We turned profitable second quarter. We project a very good third quarter and year end. I mean, there's all sorts of deals in the irons in the fire. We're over the moon right now. We're over the moon. This is exactly where any company would want to be. And now we're going to the big board. I mean, and it's not. It's a team, George. I mean, there's a really good team that supports me in doing this. Even doing this financing. And the team extends even to our outside legal counsel and other professionals. It's a whole team that's doing this, and it's remarkable how we got the perfect team. We got the perfect team here.
I don't know if it was a Freudian slip, but about 30 seconds ago, you said, things are going great. We've got a lot of deals on the go, a lot of irons in the fire. So you said that, right? I got to ask because, everybody at home, and I know you can't give, again, but how are the prospective customers A, B, and C looking like on the iron ore pelletization side? Are those moving along? Are they, what are you allowed? What can you tell us?
They're not, they're there. I mean, they're not, I'd have to press release if something went askew. They're there.
Okay.
What do you want me to say, George, for crying out loud? I know better than that.
Well, listen, I want to put you on the spot for a bit, but I know you can't.
Yeah,
So bottom line is,
irons in the fire. Where do you go for iron?
but you said it. You said that we
Jeez.
had irons in the fire. And said, okay, I'm gonna hit them on that.
Yeah.
But
My mistake.
okay. So you obviously you can't tell us. But had anything been going sideways, backwards, you would have had to.
Of course, you have to press release that. Of course, you have to press release that. Yeah. Yeah, things are going well. I'm very happy, very excited, on all fronts.
Last question for you. One of the things you had discussed, I think you had first press released uplisting, spin outs, and all those corporate reorg kind of things, maybe a year ago. It might have actually been last November when you first announced it. So the uplist looks like it's going to happen, subject to the approval of TSX. So that's not guaranteed, but we're presuming that's going to go okay. Once that's done, the next question becomes, where are you guys in terms of spin out? Because the company has so many different. You got military, you've got military defense, you got 3D, you got all the different applications. Do you start having that discussion? Or have you guys started having those discussions on whether you start to spin out parts of the company as well?
So that's always been my, not my strategy, but my answer to some of the challenges facing the companies. We're very complex. And as a company that was trading under $1, the relatively small market cap on the venture exchange, being very complicated, has its challenges to get people to take a look. Now, COVID, with all due respect, helped us in that regard. People were locked down; they had more time. We had some news, and our stock acted a certain way that got some eyeballs. That actually started peeling back the onion and taking the time to realize what we got. So, to some degree, that helped. But at the end of the day, I would suggest that the less complicated an entity is to understand, the more probability you're going to get the attention that you deserve. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to happen, but that's something that the board and myself believe. And as we take steps forward, it will be with that in the back of our mind to try and still make it less complicated to the investors.
Yeah, and by the way, when you say complicated, I say successful, because if you had a bunch of dormant divisions that weren't doing anything, you wouldn't have to talk about them. Therefore, you wouldn't add to the complexity. But you're firing on all cylinders. 3D printing, dross right, obviously with the military. So that's actually really a really good sign.
Yeah. So when you're very complex, I mean, when somebody takes the time, either a fund or an investor takes the time to analyze the company, they look at it and say, okay, if I'm going to put 5 hours into this, I may not come up with anything, and it's complicated. If I put 5 hours into something that's a little simpler, then maybe it's easier to do. So you're right, George. It is complicated. However, as you noted in the past, each one of our business lines we've associated, lined up with multi-billion-dollar companies who, to some degree, have done due diligence on their own. So I tell investors, if they actually want to put in the time, the odds are that they'll come up with something they like, because other people have gone before them and on a commercial basis and done the same thing.
Yeah, I always said back in the day, who are we to debate Aubert & Duval on the 3D printing side? Who are we to debate the U.S. military, no less, for the aircraft carriers and so on and so forth? So, hey, you've done an amazing job, Peter. We have a lot of fun in these interviews. Had a lot of fun on this one.
Most
and
certainly.
There isn't much more. I want to try and drill down, but obviously I can't.
Well, not right now. Maybe in a couple of weeks we can talk some more. But right now, We're finished the financing. We're going to put our energy towards the uplisting. We're maintaining our business development on all fronts, on all sides. But during the financing, we had to be a little bit more. We had to be careful about what we press released during that period of time. It's called like a quiet period. You have to be careful. So we're out of that now. So
hey, look, you had to be so quiet that in fact your shareholders on your AGORACOM forum had to put out your picture and missing on those bottles.
Yeah. I think I was on there recently. I caught up. I think I caught up except the past few days. I caught up recently with all the questions, I think. Yeah.
I know you've been doing a fantastic job, and we know how much the shareholders appreciate that engagement with you, and I think that's made a big difference.
Again, George, if people have a question, they sometimes some questions are brought to my attention that are on different forums, on different platforms. Just post it here and I'll answer it. Clear it up for once and for all.
Yeah, naturally. That's why we got the verified forum. Peter's got the check mark beside his name. If you post a question, you're going to get the answer from Peter or the team. At some point, we know we got Rodana who really holds the fort down on the investor relations side for you. So, guys, for everyone at home, take advantage of that. And we know a lot of people love it. So if you haven't taken advantage of it, take advantage. But Peter, congratulations on this massive milestone, this financing.
Thanks, George. Good to see you again.
Going forward.
Thanks a million. Really appreciate it.
You've been watching, or if you've been listening by podcast, to Peter Pascali, President CEO of PyroGenesis Canada, trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, hopefully for not too much longer, under the stock symbol PYR. And for our friends in the US under PYRNF, thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a fantastic day. See you on the verified forum for PyroGenesis on AGORACOM.